Hello book lovers, I am Carrie the Hyped Up Hufflepuff, and today I am doing the Reader Problems book tag. The Reader Problems book tag was originally started by Tiffany of About to Read. I'll link her video below in the description so that you can go see the original video if you'd like, and I'll also include the questions so that you can do the tag yourself if you want to. I'm trying to be more consistent about actually saying what I'm drinking and what I'm reading at the beginning of each video. Today I'm just drinking some ice water that I froze in the fridge. I refill my water bottles and freeze them in the fridge because I think it's delicious. And I am reading The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I am mainly listening to this on audiobook at the moment, having a lot of trouble getting into it just because it's not really my thing, but I'm trying to force myself through it because I've heard so many times that it's a great series if you can just get past the first couple of books. So wish me luck on that one. The other book I'm reading is Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King, and this one's super interesting so far, but I'm reading the physical copy of this one while I listen to the audiobook of The Lightning Thief. Now let's move on to the actual book tag. The first question is, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? First of all, that's just accurate. My TBR pile is precisely 20,000 books long, thank you, and growing. It's a little bit overwhelming, just saying. Second of all, I'm pretty much a mood reader, so what I read next generally depends on how I'm feeling at the time. It can also be determined on whether I am planning on doing a specific review that someone requested, or if I am doing a readathon. But generally, even if I am doing a readathon, I try to choose a variety of books so that I can still sort of mood read my way through it, because I'm not always feeling like reading every kind of book. I'm sorry, I'm just not. So I try to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. But yeah, I will definitely choose it by paying attention to my mood at the time. The second question is, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? I try not to DNF books, but it does happen. You can see I'm trying my best with The Lightning Thief. The best example I can think of with this is The Night Circus. I tried reading it in February, I believe, and ended up having to put it down because I really was not feeling it at the time. But a few months later, October specifically, I finally ended up coming back to it and I loved it. So I try to take that approach to it. Like, if I have to put a book down, I try to make it a temporary hiatus rather than a complete DNF. There are a few books that I have DNF'd, and generally it is because I hate that book. Like, I absolutely cannot get through it. I think I DNF'd The Perks of Being a Wallflower. No offense to all of you people who I know love it, but I cannot stand it, to be perfectly frank. But otherwise, I try to muscle through it, or at least put it down for a bit until I'm feeling more like reading that particular book, since I am a mood reader and I'm not always going to feel like reading that particular book. The third question is, the end of the year is coming and you're so close but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? I actually have 3 readathons specifically planned for the end of the year, specifically for this purpose. They're 3 24-hour readathons. I'm doing one at the end of October, one in the middle of November, I think is when I had time, and then one at the end of December as well. And I find that those generally help because I get at least a few books read, and they're honestly just really fun for me personally. I don't think I'm going to have that problem this year. Originally I was going to, because I was having a bit of a slow year in the middle because I had a big reading slump. So I changed my reading goal from 150 to 75, but I am like 6 books away from 75, and I'm thinking about bumping it right back up to 150 if I can, just to see if I can make it. Who knows? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Number 4 is, the cover of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I've been some level of poor literally my entire life. So I'm pretty used to not having books that match. For the Harry Potter series, for the longest time, I had the paperback for the first three books, and then the hardback for the entire rest of the series. And then finally, someone ended up stealing the paperback copy for my first three books, so I ended up having to get the hardback copy anyway, and my mom was kind and got me the copies, if I remember correctly. Um, but yeah, even now, like half of the series that I own, if I have the entire series, they're pretty disjointed. I think the only one at this point that I have where they match entirely is the Harry Potter series. Um, and the Hunger Games trilogy, which we'll see if that's still the case when the next one comes out, which I'm excited about. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, it's not something that upsets me very much. I mean, aesthetically speaking, it's a little annoying when they don't match, but ultimately, it's just something I'm used to, that I've been used to for my entire life, because I've been getting books from thrift stores or hand me downs or something to that extent. I always end up getting the cheap copies, and thus everything's a little bit hodgepodge. Question number 5 is, everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? That's most likely to be my best friend Kimberly, my girlfriend Heather, or my mother. Um, they're kind of my most consistent reading buddies and are, well, I didn't know Heather at the time, but I know that Kim and my mother were two of the people that I would vent about Harry Potter to whenever it was first coming out. Not saying I didn't like it or anything like that, but just some of the things that really pissed me off about the book, like when Umbridge came along. So they are the people that I end up venting to and bonding with when it comes to books. Number 6 is, you're reading a book and you're about to start crying in public. How do you deal? Uh, it really depends on how public and who I'm around, I guess. I don't necessarily like crying in front of people. It's sort of embarrassing. But at the same time, I have straight up cried in a Starbucks before over a book. So, Number 7 is, a sequel of a book you love just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, cry in frustration? Question mark, exclamation point. In cases like that I make an active effort to kind of make an event of it, basically, and just reread all of the books that came before it. Or if it's just one book, I'll just reread that one. Um, but basically, every single time a new Harry Potter book, and sorry, I know I keep on going back to Harry Potter, but it's like the best example that I have in cases like this. But every single time one came out, my friends and I would basically spend the week beforehand rereading all of the books that came beforehand, and then the night that it came out, we would go to the premiere, the midnight premiere, and if there was a party, we'd go to that, and we'd get the book, and then just kind of spend the rest of the night reading back and forth to one another. And it was a lot of fun, and I don't know. Uh, it kind of brings me back to those days whenever I started a new sequel that I have to read the previous books to, if that makes any sense. Number 8 is, you do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people when they ask? Actually, I don't have a problem with lending out my books, other than a select few. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty, I don't lend out because it has her signature in it. And the Harry Potter series, I don't lend out because the couple of times I have, one, someone stole the first three, like I mentioned earlier. And the next couple of times, they've ended up coming back with like a bent spine or like coffee spilled on it. I've got like stains on some of them, and they're very near and dear to my heart. So at this point, I just don't lend them out. But all the rest of my books, I'm okay with it. Like, just let me know. The more the merrier. If I really enjoy a book, I want other people to read it. Just realized that I totally politicianed that and didn't actually answer the question. In that case, I would just tell them the truth and tell them, hey, yeah, this book is very near and dear to me, and I've had a lot of bad experiences with lending books out in the past, and I would prefer to not do that in this case with this particular book, because if anything happened to it, I would be very upset. Is reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? Well, you see, sometimes I don't. But if I do, it's usually because I pick up something that I've read a million times and I just enjoy reading. Like, my go-to right now is the Hunger Games trilogy. The last time I was in a reading slump, I ended up reading the books back to back 3 different times, I'm pretty sure. All 3 of them, 3 different times, back to back. Yeah, that's what happened. But yeah, otherwise I might pick up something short and fluffy. I know in the most recent case, the book that broke me from my reading slump was The Selection by Kiera Cass, and it was kind of just because it was this relatively short, fluffy, young adult book that was a lot of fun and vaguely dystopian, and I was able to just kind of churn through it and then immediately go, okay, more please. Question 10 is, there are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? Well, unless I get them as a gift or find them at a thrift store, I'm probably not going to buy them for another year or so. I'm still very much poor and don't generally end up buying a book right off the shelf. There's only been a couple of exceptions recently, to my knowledge. The last question is, after you've bought the new books that you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? Well, it depends on the book. If it's something that I've been really excited for, it might not even make it to the bookshelf. I might just immediately start reading it and be done with it within a day. But if I get more than one book, or it's something that I haven't been looking forward to as much, or I just have a lot going on at the time, then it might sit on my bookshelf for months. Because to be fair, I was really looking forward to The Night Circus. I even started eyeing that book before it even came out. I was excited for it. And it sat on my shelf for about a year before I finally ended up reading it. So yeah, it just depends on the book. I might just drink it all up in one sitting as soon as I get it, or it might just sit there for years, gathering dust, staring into the abyss. That's the end of the Reader's Problems book tag. That being said, I would like to tag Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos of Books, Jordan of The Lost Reader, Asmin of L'Amour de Books. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to do the tag yourself. I thought it was pretty fun. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, love yourself because you deserve it. I'll talk to you guys soon. In the meantime, stay safe. Bye-bye.